Hello, welcome to CRPS Contender, my complex regional pain syndrome education channel. Today's video is Damaged Diencephalon, Brain Structures and Functions, Limbic System. This video is part of my Mind as Matter mega series, so if you would like to watch these in any particular order, here is the listicle for you. Let's hop right into the content today. The limbic system means border and is the boundary between your brainstem and your cerebral hemispheres where your higher processing occurs. It is the relay center of your brain and it is the most used area of your brain. There is some anatomical controversy regarding which structures of the brain are included in the limbic system, so I am not going to go over all of the structures that I think are included, just 6 of the major ones. These structures, and the limbic system as a whole, regulate your visceral autonomic functions and are involved in motivation, arousal, emotional regulation, learning, memory, lower order processing and organization, and addiction. The limbic system influences your endocrine and autonomic systems and is deeply interactive with your basal ganglia and your prefrontal cortex. Your basal ganglia is the section of your brain responsible for movement, and the prefrontal cortex deals with personal regulation and social interaction. This entire limbic system is heavily influenced by the neurotransmitter dopamine. Let's discuss limbic structures. The first one I want to talk about is the amygdala, which means almond. It is the pale purple knob down by your brainstem in this image, and it is responsible for your emotional responses, your hormonal secretions, memory, your fear responses and fear-associated learning, the emotions of anger and rage, and anxiety. It is involved in the formation of positive memories, the evaluation of your environment to determine what is important, which emotional responses to produce in response to that important stimuli. The next structure is the hippocampus, which is this bold pink structure, and it means seahorse. You can kind of imagine the bulbous end here to be the seahorse head with the long looping tails stretched out around the limbic system. The hippocampus is responsible for indexing memories and as well as memory encoding and retrieval. It is involved in moving memories from short to long-term storage, as well as inhibiting impulses and behavioral responses. It is involved in spatial recognition, navigation, and approach avoidance conflict processing, which is whether you are going to go towards something or away from it when you become stressed. The thalamus is this kind of egg-shaped structure in the middle of your head there, and it means chamber. It relays sensory signals to and from the spinal cord and the cerebrum, except the sensation of smell. It is also involved in arousal, pain regulation, motor language functions, cognitive functions, your mood and motivation, alertness, and consciousness. The hypothalamus, which is this dark purple, right in front of and below the thalamus, means under the chamber, and it is the emotional control center of exhilaration, anger, and unhappiness. It releases and regulates hormones and regulates your body temperature, as well as daily physiological cycles and appetite. Also is involved in regulating sexual behaviors. The cingulate gyrus, which is this teal color at the top, means the ring-like girdle, and it is responsible for sensory input that concerns your emotions, the regulation of aggression, and the vocalized expression of emotional states or desires. It regulates the autonomic and endocrine responses, as well as your pain perception. It is involved in the selection and initiation of motor movement, social behavior, decision-making, and autobiographical memory. It regulates between internally and externally focused attention and is involved in awareness. The corpus callosum, which is this bright orange here, means tough body, and it actually connects the left and right hemispheres of your higher processing cortex. It integrates and transfers information between these hemispheres and connects the different consciousness of these hemispheres. In some people, usually people with severe epilepsy, this corpus callosum gets cut, which has fascinating results. Basically, they end up with 2 separate consciousnesses in their heads. And they cannot communicate or interact, so they cannot become integrated, and they basically live with 2 different preferences and sets and goals for the world and everything in their head, and they can't communicate. Really very fascinating. Anyway, I might discuss more of that later, because I do think it's involved, but that's more of an interesting side note. What happens if your limbic system becomes degraded, or dysregulated. You might experience an increased perception of stimuli and sensory input. When you're exposed to stimuli, you might experience brain fog, fatigue, nausea, or other sorts of neurological symptoms. You might have some sort of unexplained brain fog or fatigue that is not stimuli dependent, unexplained pain or discomfort, an inability to tolerate certain foods, medications, or supplements, mood swings, paranoia, and inappropriate behavior, depression, anxiety, irritability, and panic attacks, difficulty with focus, concentration, memory, and orientation, an impaired social cognition, impaired recognition of facial expressions, and an inability to make eye contact, difficulty with planning, organization, multitasking, reasoning, problem solving, and handling complex tasks, and difficulty with communication, finding or recalling the words that you are wanting to use, or language comprehension. Thanks so much for watching. If you like the content I'm producing on this channel, hit subscribe. You're welcome to share any of the videos I produce on this channel. If you'd like to contribute to my medical expenses, my Patreon is listed below. As always, relevant sources will be linked in the description. I hope you learned something today, and I hope to see you next time.